Welcome to the Building Your Career podcast. I'm your host, Dom Taujanskas, and join us as we explore the world of construction. Each episode, we welcome a guest that shares career highlights and career advice, and hopefully inspires the next generation of construction professionals.
Welcome to another edition of the Building Your Career podcast. Today, very excited to have as a guest Alex O'Shea from Sir Robert McAlpine. So I will start where we usually start off. Alex, if you could take the floor, tell us a little bit more about your current job role and also the company that you work for as well.
Dom, before I go into any detail, I just want to say thanks for having me on today, and on building your career on the podcast. Really hope all the listeners enjoy this, and evidently, from all the various platforms, this is a really well received, career-based podcast. So just want to say thanks. So to everyone. My name is Alex O'Shea. I'm an estimator apprentice for Sir Robert McAlpine. I've been with the business coming up to about 4 years now. A bit about my sort of education history. Completed a HNC in quantity surveying at South Bank, and now I've stayed on to do another 3 years in commercial management, a BSc in commercial management. But my time in the business has really been mixed, to be honest. I started out working for solely the southern region, and now I'm based out of London, so I've got more of a national kind of outlook on things. But as an estimator at McAlpine's, predominantly base myself in pre-construction activities. So that's from the moment we are looking to bid a tender to win it, and then hopefully securing it under a PCSA, which is a pre-construction services agreement, all the way until we are live on site. But saying that, I just came off a quick stint or secondment, if you want to call it that way, 6 months on a live project doing some value engineering, which was really nice because I was there tendering that from the first onto the second stage, all very successful, very nice. Put together the cost plan, developed all the procurement with the various subcontractors, which was nice. And then having been able to come back to it after a period of time away from it and be involved with it live on site was really nice, because a lot of the time you look at drawings and you think, okay, but to visualize it, it's a nice feeling. And I was saying to a couple of friends the other day, when we went out, in 2016 we were going to Reading Festival, and now that very project is being built right outside Reading Station. So it's actually being able to see that continuity in history. Life is very cyclical in many ways, and that's what I enjoy about construction. It's very much there. It's all around us. So you have a big part to play in everything or other people's worlds.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you kind of touched on it a little bit there in terms of your current job title being an estimator. So for some of our listeners who, we've had people from the commercial side of things on the pod before, but could you kind of break that down in terms of kind of layman terms, exactly what it is that an estimator is doing on a daily basis?
Yeah, so I mean, fundamentally, the role of the estimator is to provide an idea of cost for a client who is looking to build a project. Now, it's much more complicated than that because there's various different facets to estimating. There's estimating, there's cost planning, there's cost forecasting. But essentially, quintessentially, it is to forecast a predicted cost for the project based on the information that you have received. But typically, what I'd be doing on a daily kind of basis is, putting together costs for different elements of work, feeding that into a project holistically, looking at the preliminary costs to the project. So we're talking about cranes, we're talking about hoists, lifting solutions, looking at material prices, looking at benchmarks against other projects. We do a lot of commercial offices. Where is this current commercial office that we're looking to win fitting with various other commercial offices that we've delivered, and also that have been nationally delivered by all kinds of other contractors. So it's understanding those things, because that gives you the parameter to then build the project onwards, starting from that almost nothing point to the point where you're looking to go, that journey from A to B in a pre-construction, from a pre-constructive perspective. But then there's also, getting involved a lot in procurement, managing subcontractors, their prices, how their prices feed into our view on the construction works. And there's also value engineering and change management, so providing potential alternative solutions to the client in order to identify opportunities, to make us, to make our proposals good, sound, and robust, and to give options if required. Like I said, that's only a very high level view on things. It's very difficult to. There's so much more with anything that anyone does in their careers. You try to justify what you do in 5 minutes, but it never does it justice. But I tell you what, I do work for some fantastic people, and I try to download as much information from them. But it's a long way to go.
But that's excellent, and what we're really trying to push on the podcast as well, and to our listeners, is to just really highlight the different career paths that are available, and really just dispel the myth that construction is all about bricklayers or roofers, and it's just being outside and hands on. So we're really trying to get kind of rid of that misconception and speak to people like you who are doing various job roles that people might not have even heard about. So I think it's an excellent description there.
No, I mean I think you really captured it nicely there. Look, Sir Robert McAlpine is synonymous with British heritage, but not just heritage from a historical point of view, as in buildings that have been built that define the UK. Like, if you've ever watched Harry Potter, that in the first Harry Potter, the car that flies over that train as they're sort of heading towards Hogwarts for the first time. Well, McAlpine's built the Glenfiddich viaduct, which the train travels on. McAlpine's built the Emirates Stadium, Wembley Stadium, the Wobbly Bridge. Loads of recently just finished Big Ben. So it's these, and that seems very, that just sounds like, okay, construction, we're just building. But Dom, as you rightly say, there's so much more to it. There's so much more. Think about the level of detail that has to go into producing bids in order to win our jobs. To put all that information in such a way that that it is telling the client that we deliver high profile projects to a very good standard, and this is the evidence for it, in visual form. And the people who market digitally, the presence that McAlpine has in the UK, everything. There's so many different facets to construction. I think I saw once. We'd have to share this with you'd have to share this with your listeners, Dom. There's like almost a kind of Venn diagram of all the different of construction in the middle, but then every single role and the supporting roles that feeds into this. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but it goes to show that there's like, from construction, there's like 150 different roles that you could be doing within this industry. And actually, statistics show that bottom line is construction contributes to 60% of the GDP of the UK, or something. I don't have any backup ONS figures to substantiate that, but that just shows you that there's a lot of resource going into construction, and that's the fact. So that means there's a lot of different roles available for anyone, really.
Yeah, and as you rightly said, you're there, you're doing it. You've got I can imagine that you're speaking to lots of different people, so you've got first-hand experience of all the different roles available. But just to kind of expand on something as well, you're not just a kind of an estimator within the business, are you? There's things that you're doing. I see that you attend a lot of kind of events and things like that. So could you give our listeners a little bit of a flavour of the other work that you do within Sir Robert McAlpine and what you're involved in terms of that promotion side?
Yeah, so as well as the estimator side, which is the fundamental sort of core of what I do, I'm also the chairman of the Stages Affinity Network. So the affinity networks just to give you a very high level description, our employee networks within the business really cares and takes seriously people matters. So the various issues that affect people and just people things, human relation things. So I'm the chairman of the Stages Affinity Network, which represents those at different stages, ages, and levels of experience within on their career path, whatever that career might be. But the sort of, are you starting out the middle stages of your career and the later stages and things that you might be going on to do later on down the line. But then we also have, the LGBTQ plus affinity networks. We have disability affinity networks, and all of those feed in from our employees within the business to make sure that Sir Robert McAlpine is the most inclusive as possible. Because that's the right thing to do. This is important stuff. This is not just because it's a profile thing to do. It's because it's the right thing to do, and because I am at the career stage that I am, I feel it's important to talk about stages. For example, what stage of career you're at. Being someone just starting out, young in age, but that's not to say, I could be starting out in my career at a later stage, but it just happens to be that I am young and at this point in my career, and I'm in construction. I'm very, very conscious of the fact that construction has a unfortunately an aging demographic, and there's a lot of people who are at the later stages of their career and then looking to leave because they've spent their whole lives in construction and that's where they are, and there's not a lot of younger people coming into the business into construction businesses for various different reasons and that means there's a bit of a brain drain, if you want to call it that. So as part of the stages, a lot of the stuff that we do is making sure that all people are represented at different stages, celebrating people at the the early stages of their careers, at the middle stages of their careers, and also the late stages of careers. Like we've recently had a lot of successful campaigns where we've celebrated those who are retiring, who have been with the business for 40 plus years. That is like almost 2 of my lifetimes. The things that these people know is unbelievable. These are real masters at their trade. So them leaving, so we want to make sure that they're talked about, they're celebrated, because this should be a celebration. Otherwise what is there? And that's one thing that we're doing. The same way, with apprentices or graduates coming into the business, we like to celebrate. So there's a couple of things that we've got tucked up our sleeve that we'll hopefully be launching in the business very soon, just to really kind of ground home the fantastic things that everyone at the various different stages of their careers are doing, to make sure that McAlpines is not only inclusive but bottom line to show that McAlpine actually cares about these things. And it is, I think, like McAlpine's history is just fantastic. It's got such a rich tapestry, history, 150 years plus business. Started out from nothing, and it is what it is. That for someone coming into the business, that is pretty inspirational. You know what I mean? And it actually gives you something to base your work out of. It humbles you as well, but it also, you think, wow, this is cool. This is a cool business to work for. It's got a lot of history. I'm an apprentice. He's given me a platform to work with. I want to, show that, I can do something and I can learn as much as possible as well. So, the affinity networks are very important. They're very important because you download the views of people. You can consolidate them and then put them forward to have further discussions with the business, and make sure all facets are covered as they should be.
I think that's very, very important to highlight. Just with a company as successful and as large as Sir Robert McAlpine is, the human element and the human aspect is still a major part of the business plan, because it's one of those, I think, You know, a lot of people would see a larger scale company and think, oh, am I just going to be, you know, part of a larger machine? Am I just going to be a number? But it's, you know, as you've clearly demonstrated there, no, that's not the case. You know, there's active promotion within.
Yeah, I mean, that the promotion, that is one thing, but what you just said there has really sung to me about, okay, naturally, I'm biased, you know, about this, but I have not for any second from my time, whilst being here and learning and being brought up within the business, you know, they're teaching me, they're bringing me up, you know, I have not felt like I've been a number once.
Yeah.
It does not feel like this at all. And I'm not just saying this. I'm sure, as you've seen through my LinkedIn,
Hmm.
through the shout outs that I've given to people, you know, I mean that, you know, because
Yeah, yeah,
I feel like I am part of a family, you know, and I feel like I am being really looked after and made sure that my concerns are being, you know, are being listened to, and it goes a long way, because it makes coming into work fun. You
yeah.
know, it makes learning from people fun. It gives you another level to the work that you're doing, because you're not just doing the work for the sake of it. You're not just doing the work because you have to. You're doing the
Hmm.
work because you're working with a team to develop a project that you actually care about, you know, and it makes it so much more. It just makes it more fun.
Yeah.
The fruits of your effort, you know, they feel well met.
Yeah, and that's
So
what it's all about, really.
yeah.
But just for you then, on your personal journey, where did it all begin for you in terms of your passion for the industry? Where did you start off, and how did you get to where you are now? Then.
Oh, it's such a funny question. Anytime I'm asked about this, I've been asked about this a few times, and recently actually, yeah, and I've thought about it. So I when I was 16 and 17, I always wanted to kind of, and no, probably much younger than that, I always wanted to become a journalist. Okay, and now those probably listening will laugh and they will think, well, what's that got to do with construction, you know? But then as I left school, and you know, thinking about journalism things, I never really wanted to go to university,
Hmm.
or at least I never wanted to go down the full university route. I always
Yeah.
wanted to have experience and have that kind of learning, but then also being able to learn on the job
Hmm.
and see what people are actually doing. And I came out of school and I wanted to kind of, you know, go into journalism, and whilst I was applying for various different things, I had to do something. So I thought, you know what, I would start like an interim position as an apprentice plumber, you know,
Hmm.
just so I could do something. And actually, after a year, I really enjoyed that. I
Hmm.
really had you know, had a lot of fun on the tools, you know, learning there. It was just me and my boss. It was very much a one man kind of band thing, and but I'd say plumber. A lot of the jobs we'd get there, and we'd be doing like a kitchen extension, you know, and those kind of things. So it was much bigger than that. You know, 5 o'clock
Yeah.
in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning start, and that gave me a real appreciation for the building blocks,
Yeah.
literally and metaphorically. Um, but I still really felt that I wanted to do something more in terms of on a more commercial aspect, on a more sort of administrative level. I think there was that part of me that didn't just want to always be focused on the tools. There was a part of me that, yes, actually I want to have a bit of oversight on things and be able to construct things in a more digital sense,
Hmm.
not just in a physical sense. So after a year of doing that, I said to my boss, which I'm still in contact, my previous, I'm still in contact with, a very nice guy. I said to him that, you know, I want to apply for some roles as an apprentice, you know, have an apprenticeship in a more commercial kind of capacity. And he very fortunately put a good said yes, you know, please go for that. You know, it's been fantastic working with you. And I applied for various different positions, in quantity surveying, but it's McAlpines naturally. was like, my number one kind of aim. I really, really wanted to go to be given a chance at this business. And yeah, I was kindly received an invite for an interview, which I went for, and that was just at the start of 2020. And that's where I've been ever since, really. So it's sort of gone from journalism to construction. But I'd rather be honest than not.
No, there's lots of different backgrounds and stories. So, by a long mile, you're not the strangest kind of transition over, really. But on that note, then,
Are you a job seeker tired of endlessly scrolling through job boards with no success? Has your job search hit a dead end? Well, we're here to tell you there's another way. Here at Quest Personnel, we offer a variety of free resources to help job seekers just like you. Our team of expert recruiters is here to help you through every step of the job search process, from CV writing to interview techniques. But that's not all. We also offer exclusive access to workshops, networking events, and other job roles that you simply won't find anywhere else. So what are you waiting for? Get in touch now on our website, questpersonnel.co.uk.
On that note, then, obviously knowing what you know now and knowing your journey to get into the construction industry and knowing the kind of the day-to-day of the industry, what kind of one piece of advice would you give your younger self when you first started out then?
Yeah, I think one thing that I'd certainly crave now, but is also a bit of advice to anyone, and this definitely goes back to what we touched on when we spoke about the stages affinity network, is learning from those who are more experienced than you by really listening to what they're saying, because when you listen to people speak, it gives you an idea of their process and what they're saying, and the final sort of image of what they want you to see. But also within that, they build up how they're working to that. And by listening to people speak about how they're doing something, you have those, those sort of points of progress, and that by taking those bites, then you think you can absorb that information and think, okay, that's how someone has done it. How am I going to do that using that information, and how can that assist me in my day-to-day into my day-to-day job? And look, I mean, from my experience, I've worked with some real good people. Whether or not that's because McAlpine is like, the one of the number one main contractors in the UK or not, it certainly goes to show that yes, there's a lot of people who are fantastic at what they do. That there's real masters, and the team that I work for, who are in construction for years and years and years and years, especially in estimating, and I that's what I really listen out for when I listen to them speak. And when I see the stuff that they do, I'm very conscious to try and absorb the process behind it, rather than just taking it at face value, because I think that's critical for then being able to boost your own level of understanding. Um, I think that's the number one kind of piece of advice. I'm sure it seems like a very cliche piece of advice, but to listen, but not just to listen, but listen to that kind of other level,
I think that's a very intelligent answer, and it's kind of expanded on a lot of points that our previous guests have said, where they said, listen and ask questions. But what you're saying there is absorb the process and know what the how is, because if you know the how, then you know how to absorb that process and then how to replicate that in any kind of future projects that you're working on. So I think that's an incredible piece of advice.
Well, no, that's the thing. I didn't want it to come across as a kind of cliche thing, but really, and I said this the other day to someone, is that okay, as an apprentice, you're here working, right? Especially in estimator apprentice, you're here working, so you're learning, but you're also at uni, and there is some kind of hypothesis out there that you are the product of the closest people around you, and as an apprentice you are a reflection and extension of those who you work for. So ultimately you will be downloading from those people closest around you,
Yeah.
and hopefully
Yeah.
taking the most, you're you're almost like a optimized version of those kind of views and processes, because you're taking a bit from here, you're taking a bit from there, and you're working out for yourself who you want to be. But it's those processes that ultimately you'll be inheriting from, not optimized, it's the inherited, you're the inherited version of everyone's different processes. But that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
When you feel supported by these people, and they give you the opportunities to learn. So
Absolutely
yeah.
solid bit of advice there. Absolute solid. So, just kind of moving on to the next question, and obviously you've had your own kind of journey and own kind of route into the industry, but what are the different options available on the commercial side, whether it be down the educational route, and is there any kind of degrees or certifications that people should be looking out for when they're first starting on their journey into the kind of commercial construction industry?
Yeah. Very, I mean, it's a multifaceted question here, to be honest with you. There's lots of different options available. I think, for those who want to, who might want a bit of a broader kind of view on things, and then be able to define, but also have that kind of solid level of progression, if they would want to do, is the quantity surveying degree. I mean, that's the route I've gone, and then from there one can diverge into commercial management or to quantity surveying, as is known. So I've gone down the commercial management route just because that's more something I enjoy a bit more,
Mm-hmm.
and want to learn about a bit more, having just done the quantity surveying foundation. But ultimately, coming out of school, you'll have a choice whether or not you want to go to university to pursue a degree, or do a degree apprenticeship. I've done. I've taken the apprenticeship route, which I think is fantastic, because you're both there learning and you're working at the same time. You have the knowledge that you learn at university when you do go to university once a week, and that gives you a broader picture of things. You might be touching on things that don't necessarily do often in your day-to-day role, like advanced contract law with respect
Mm-hmm.
to construction projects. But then also it bolsters the information and the skills that you're developing at work. I'm massively passionate about apprenticeships, because it really gives you a lot of solid opportunities. You're there, you're already in a business, in whatever capacity you are. You have chance to learn from people hands on, and really download as much information as possible from them, but whilst also having that formal university level training.
Mm-hmm.
Apprenticeships are fantastic for your personal development, but also I think arguably what they give back to the economy. You're an apprentice, you're relatively low maintenance,
Mm-hmm.
um, but you're committed to your job.
Yeah.
You're committed to the business because the business is bringing you up, and then you can give back to the business. You can give back to the business, and by virtue of that, the business expands. The business expands. It gives, and it's a cycle, which then the government benefits from, if you know what I mean, and that way things can keep revolving. And I know now, having recently been to the Houses of Parliament for a meeting which was held by the Institute for Apprenticeships and Technical Education. This is something that, away from party politics, the government is really pushing for. They
Mm-hmm.
recognise the importance of apprenticeships. Apprenticeships aren't just you're not just an apprentice. It's not just you're there making coffee for people or something
Yeah.
like that. All those stereotypes. Apprentice is a fantastic word, because, like, historically speaking, you had the apprentice and you had the master,
Mm-hmm.
but it's changed a lot since then. And if I had to say one thing, it would be renaming apprenticeships to, like, workplace degrees.
Yeah.
And if that sort of negative synonym was to apprenticeships, which is arguably like a negative sort of synonym, or it's got negative connotations rather, if that was to be replaced with workplace degrees, then I tell you what, it would change the game for apprenticeships. It would, people would be jumping on these things, right? But at the same time, they are hidden. They are, little hidden gems. So it's about framing things the right way. But yes, I am biased. Apprenticeships have been done a fantastic route, but the degree route is also great. I've got lots of friends who, by pure chance, we never. It's funny. We all grew up in the same area, went to the same schools and stuff, and we never knew that we were going to end up in construction. But ironically, we've ended up working in construction, and they've gone down the university route. At various very good unis in all across the UK, and you know what? They've had a fantastic time as well.
Hmm.
And they've been able to have that really consolidated, university focused level of knowledge, and now they've come into their respective businesses where their professional development will be taken further, but at the same time they have that that education there as well. So
Definitely. And yeah.
those are the good things. But sorry.
No. Carry it, please. Please carry on if there's anything more to go.
No, I was just going to say, with respect to your second point that you asked me there, is there any kind of certifications and professional bodies to get involved in? I mean, from a commercial perspective, and these are the journeys that I'm working to.
Hmm.
It's the CIOB accreditations and the RICS accreditations, which I will be doing. McAlpine's is very, very passionate and cares a lot about professional development, and they have
Hmm.
over the years launched various different RICS development sessions, which gives
Hmm.
you a flavour of what you might be doing in the RICS APC, which is the professional assessment exams. Um, and they also care a lot about other accreditations, and work very closely with the CIOB.
Hmm.
So those are journeys that I'm on. But I think if you're kind of starting out in your career, and if you're based anywhere in the UK, one thing that I'd certainly invite you to look at and get involved in would be the CIOB Tomorrow's Leaders.
Hmm.
I've been engaged with the CIOB Tomorrow's Leaders for, I don't know, coming up to 3 years now, and yeah, let me tell you, it's really great what the CIOB do. The CIOB, the database that they have of knowledge, the library of all professional books and regulations and things like that is fantastic. But at the same time, the CIOB there's so many things. There's so many engagement activities, fun sessions, networking sessions. So it boosts, by getting involved in these kind of organizations and clubs. It boosts your networking range, the level of knowledge, and also just having the opportunity to speak to people that you don't really have a chance to speak to from other businesses, and in different professional capacities. It's all well and good you working in your single career,
Yeah.
but it can be sometimes, you might feel like you're siloed. So engaging with organizations like the CIOB and groups like the CIOB Tomorrow's Leaders, in particular, it gives you a really broader perspective, and I felt like I've benefited from that.
That's excellent bit of advice, and very easily searchable online as well. But that actually leads very, very nicely on to our final questions as well. With the CIOB themselves producing a report saying that we need 250,000 more people in the UK construction industry by 2027. So what can the industry do to both attract, nurture, and retain that kind of young talent in the industry, either young talent or to attract people who are maybe a little bit further on in their career who just want a little bit of a career change?
Well, there's a couple of things to this, but it really goes back to the first point that you made, that when we started this, which I thought was brilliant, which is that construction is not just construction.
Yeah.
There's so much more to construction. I mean, for those of you who are pursuing a construction career, yes, this is the way to go. But in order to bring more young people in, who young people might not necessarily recognize that that there's more to construction. So it's really marketing construction and having businesses within construction market other opportunities within the overall sort of the umbrella field, like digital construction, 3D visualization, marketing, material, what's the word I'm looking for? Material procurement, those kind of, for the, it's almost like stocks and shares kind of thing. Understanding that procurement, accounting, legal. So many fields to construction. Estimating, quantity surveying, construction management. If you're into managing project planning, there's so many more things to it. And it's also recognizing that with anything in life, but especially construction, it doesn't mean that you're fixed. It doesn't mean that you're fixed to doing what you're doing. You can't tell what you might be doing in 5 years' time. So it's having that open mind to things, because you never know, you might do X role. And I was speaking to a really, really great guy that I've known for many years down here, and he did one thing for a long time, but then that ended up going into another, and actually he's been there ever since. But it wasn't where the starting point. So it's recognizing that there's so many doors in construction. I think that's the thing. People don't realize that there's so many doors in construction, and it really opens a lot of things, and you meet people from so many different fields, and just being able to travel places. As a result of working in the field, in the job that I am, I've seen so many different parts of the UK, places that I wouldn't have thought of going before or have seen, and working in construction just gives you, because you're so mindful of buildings, you really appreciate the environment around you. Sustainability, that's another fundamental. It's like of crucial importance globally, but that's another role that there's a need for in construction. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
Definitely.
It is making it clear that construction, yes, it is building, yes, it is the commercial facet of things, yes, it is investing into areas, yes, it is development, but within that, there's so much more to it.
Brilliant. Well, Alex, I've loved having you on. You've been an absolutely incredible guest. So thank you so much for your time and your wise words as well.
No, Dom, I just want to say, thanks for this opportunity, namely, but also to building your podcast, your career podcast as well, because this is a fantastic segment, and I think as many people as possible should be listening to this. I've listened to a few episodes myself. I'd like to get through as many more as possible, but listening to people who are starting out in their careers, but also not just starting out, but also building their careers, and hearing their journeys and stories gives you those little nuggets of sort of advice that you don't necessarily hear anywhere else, because it's always the process that someone's taken and their journey that you think, actually, you know what, that's really interesting. Where am I in respect to that, or where can I be, and what can I learn from them? So thanks a lot. Thank you very much.
Not a problem. Well, Alex, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for joining us on the Building Your Career podcast. We hope you enjoyed hearing from our guest and learning about the different career paths available. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe so we can reach even more listeners. And if anyone wants any free CV advice or simply wants to know the options available to them, don't hesitate to get in touch.